Honorable members, a very good morning to all of you. I welcome you all to the second National Youth Parliament session, and I hope this session will be fruitful. Please be seated. We begin today's session with oath taking or affirmation of our newly elected members. Secretary General, please.
Mr. Algur Bonsai Venkatesh, who stands elected from Vellore constituency of Tamil Nadu state, will now take an oath or affirmation. Mr. Algur Bonsai Venkatesh, please. Mr. Algur Bonsai Venkatesh, do you want to take an oath or affirmation?
Oath, please.
Which language would you like to take the oath?
Tamil, please.
I,
நான் பானுசாய் வெங்கடேஷ் சத்தின்படி இந்தியா அரசியலமைப்பின் மீது உண்மையான நம்பிக்கையும் விசுவாசத்தையும் கொண்டிருப்பேன் என்று கடவுளின் பிரயாரல் சத்தியம் செய்கிறேன். இந்தியாவின் இராண்மையும் ஒடியம்பாட்டியும் நீலநிறுத்துவின் ஒன்றியத்திற்கான அமைச்சர் என்று முறையில் எனது கடமைக்குள்ள உண்மையுடனும் மனசாட்சியுடனும் திறமையிட்டும் அரசியலமைப்பின் மற்றும் சத்தியத்தின்படியான இது வைகையான மக்களுக்கும் நான் பயமோ தயாவோ பாசமோ தீமையோ இல்லாமல் உரிமை செய்வேன் என்றும் சத்தியம்.
Now, I would like to introduce another minister, Srimati Saiti Jogi, who stands elected from Bapatla constituency. Srimati Saiti Jogi, please. Srimati Saiti Jogi, would you like to take an oath or affirmation?
Oath, please.
In which language would you like to take the oath?
Telugu, please.
I,
సాహితీ జోగి అను నేను లోక్సభ సభ్యురాలిగా ఎన్నుకోబడినందున చట్టరీత్యా నెలకొల్పబడిన భారత రాజ్యాంగం పట్ల యథార్థమైన భక్తి విశ్వాసములు కలిగి ఉంటానని, భారతదేశపు సార్వభౌమాధికారమును అఖండతను కాపాడుతానని, నేను స్వీకరించబో కర్తవ్యమును సమర్థవంతంగా నిర్వహిస్తానని దైవ సాక్షిగా ప్రమాణం చేయుచున్నాను.
simple man with the heart of child. Suresh Angadi was born on 1st June 1955 to Somappa and Channabasappa in an agricultural family in Kanvi Karinakoppa near Belgaum. Angadi began his political career in 1996 with the Bharatiya Janata Party as the Vice President of the party's Belgavi district unit. In 2001, he was nominated as the party's president and continued to hold that post until he was nominated as the party's candidate for the Belgavi Lok Sabha constituency in 2004. He held the distinction of never having lost an election. I offer my deepest condolences to the bereaved family members. May they find peace and strength to move ahead.
Honorable Madam, I rise to pay my tributes to Mr. Angadi, whose death has been mourned by all of us. Though he has crossed half century in his life, he seemed more to be young and active. In May 2019, he became the Minister of State for Railways and served in that position until his death in September 2022. As the Minister of State for Railways, Angadi approved the Suburban Commuter Rail project in Bangalore. He had also signed a memorandum of understanding with Bangalore International Airport for building a railway station near to the airport that would provide connectivity with the center of the city. The station was to be built by BIAL and handed over to Indian Railways for maintenance and operations. Some of the other projects advanced by Mr. Angadi as the Minister of State for Railways includes first private and longest roll-on roll-off freight service of goods trucks along the 682-kilometer route between Bangalore to Solapur. In 2019, he had also introduced the direct recruitment examination for railways with over 4.7 million candidates appearing in the examination that was conducted in 15 languages. He had also signed a memorandum of understanding with Confederation to Indian Industry to drive energy efficiency and pilot projects aimed at setting up net zero buildings and mechanisms to drive energy management practices between the Indian Industry Association and Indian Railways. As a Minister of State for Railways, Angadi had also announced a call for 150 railway stations across the country to be green certified by 2020. In his 16th month tenure, he was credited for introducing over 50 train services just in the Southwestern Division alone. At the beginning of COVID-19 lockdown, Angadi introduced the special trains across the states of India, including 31 pairs of special Rajdhani Express trains and 254 pairs of special Mail and Express trains, and aimed at enabling travel of migrant labor. Angadi also headed the Suresh Angadi Education Foundation, which runs educational institutions all across the Karnataka. He was a very simple man who came from a downtrodden family. He knew the struggles faced by such people, so spent most of his time for their betterment. He was with us to the very last moment. We deeply mourn for his loss. I extend my deep condolences to his family.
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय श्री सुरेश चन्नबसप्पा अंगड़ी का निधन से मुझे बहुत दुख हुआ था। एक उगुमरी और सामाजिक कार्यकर्ता, उन्होंने राजनीति का दुनिया में अपना नाम कमाया था। कर्नाटका के लोगों के हितों के प्रति उन्होंने भक्ति का प्रेरणादायक थी। रेल राज्य मंत्री सुरेश अंगड़ी कोरोना वायरस बीमारी से बुधवार निधन हो गया था। 65 साल के सुरेश अंगड़ी का एम्स में इलाज चल रहा था। भारतीय राजनीति के इतिहास में अजय रहे अंगड़ी कर्नाटका के प्रमुख लिंगायत समुदाय से आते थे, जिन्होंने खासकर उत्तरी कर्नाटक के बीजेपी में बड़ा जानदार खड़ा किया। उनके परिवार, दोस्तों और अनुयायियों के प्रति मेरी संवेदनाएं।
We deeply mourn for the loss of our friend, and I am sure the House will join me in conveying our condolences. The House may join me in conveying our condolences by standing in silence. Please be seated. Secretary General, may please convey the message of condolences to the bereaved family.
Yes, madam.
Now I request Honorable Prime Minister to introduce the new ministers.
Honorable Speaker, Madam, I have immense pleasure to introduce to you and through you to the House my colleagues, the new ministers, Sivanaga Sai Karthik Kuragatti, Honorable Minister of Tribal Affairs. Nagur Mastan Sheikh, Honorable Minister of Industries and Commerce. Sandhya Rani Angirekula, Civil Aviation Minister.
And now we begin with the questioner. Question number 101, Ms. Jashwita, please.
Madam Speaker, will the Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment state that what actions is the government taking to eradicate in the human medieval of manual scavenging in India? What is the government policy for rehabilitation of manual scavengers?
Honorable Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment, Srimati Sumedha, please.
Madam Speaker, manual scavenging is shameful, dehumanizing and barbaric. It must stop. No exemption, no excuse. Manual scavenging is a disgrace on humanity. We feel that the present law is not enough. Considering the urgency, government is taking up the matters as top priority and the draft of prohibition of employment as manual scavengers and the rehabilitation bill 2022 is under circulation to the concerned ministries and departments. The bill with stricter provisions on eradicating the dehumanizing practice and rehabilitating the people involved is to be introduced in the winter session of the Parliament. For the next question, our dear Minister posed, I would like to add, government is already running self-employment schemes for rehabilitation of manual scavengers. The scheme is assisting the scavengers for rehabilitation and we hope to achieve it in a time-bound manner by March 2023. Scavengers and their dependents, irrespective of their income, will be eligible for assistance.
Ms. Jashwita, please.
The biggest violator of law in India is the Indian Railways, which has toilets dropping all the excreta on grounds, stations, and they employ scavengers to clean it manually. What does the Honorable Minister say about this?
Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment, Srimati Sumedha, please.
Madam Speaker, for the information of our Honourable Member, the proposed bill has a provision that Indian Railways will ensure that within 2 years, the toilets in the trains are converted into a form that does their manual hand scavenging with excreta.
Any supplementary questions?
Honorable Chairperson, Madam, I would like to ask the Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment, shouldn't the government treat a manual scavenging on a power with crimes against Dalits to be tried under atrocity law which lays down stringent punishment?
Srimati Sumedha, please.
Madam Speaker, for the information of our Honourable Member, yes, the government is serious about treating manual scavenging on a power with crimes against Dalits. We will have strict provisions regarding this in the proposed bill. For now, the Social Justice Ministry has asked the states engaging a Dalit to handle human excreta, violated his dignity, and that such case be pursued under the Prevention of Atrocities Act.
Question number 102, Mr. Hema Vinay Kumar, please.
Madam Speaker, through you, I would like to ask the Minister of Consumer Affairs of Food and Public Distribution System, what measures are going to be taken by the government to provide thrust to the grave matter of food security? Secondly, what is the status of implementation of TPTS scheme? What measures are undertaken under the scheme of deal efficiency with the problem at hand?
Honorable Minister of Food and Public Distribution System, Srimati Pallavi Srimalogna, please.
Honorable Speaker, Madam, through you, I would like to answer the first question posed by Mr. Hema Vinay on the floor of the House. During the Planning Commission era, the allocation of food grains to states and union territories was done on the basis of consumption. In the course of previous 10 years, it was the average annual of take-off food grains that was taken into consideration at the time of the introduction of TPDS. The earlier allocation of 10 kg per month
which was now doubled to 20 kg per family per month of 850% of economic cost in April 2010. It was further substantially increased to 25 kg in 2022. Currently, the allocation is done under the National Food Security Act 2022 NFSA, which provides a pan-India coverage of up to 75% of rural population and 50% of urban population. Under this very act, the beneficiaries of public distribution system are entitled with 5 kg of food grains per month of subsidized cereals at the following prices: rice at Rs 3 per kg, wheat at Rs 2 per kg, coarse grains or millets at Rs 1 per kg. Moreover, under Antyodaya Anna Yojana, each household was allotted with 35 kg of food grains without any escalation in the product cost. Honorable Speaker Madam, through you, I would like to answer the second question posed by Mr. Hema Vinay on the floor of the House. What a farcical scenario it is to see the people who eat cutlet made of gold manifest fake apprehension for the poor. Nonetheless, to solve the grave problem of food security, the Department of Food and Civil Supplies has implemented a scheme, namely end-to-end computerization of TPDS operations. Due to vigorous efforts and constant monitoring of the project through meetings, video conferences and visits to states and union territories, the aforementioned problems are eradicated to a great extent. Nonetheless, the substantial progress in the project implementation of the project, it was substantially increased to states and union territories without any escalation in the project cost.
The floor is open for any of the supplementary questions. Mr. Hema Vinay?
No, madam.
Question number 103, Srimati Siva Venkateswaramma, please.
Madam Speaker, the country has witnessed a sudden surge in the suicide rates of the farmers due to indebtedness. What are the steps the government has taken to curb this menace? Why does the government not pool out the resources for the welfare of indebted farmers by giving loan waivers? In the words of the President, Ishan Hovo, farming looks mighty easy when your plow is a pencil and you are 1,000 miles away from the cornfield.
Minister of Finance, Srimati Asim Suhana, please.
Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the honourable member for bringing such a critical issue to the floor of the House. The suicide of farmers is indeed a grave concern for the country, and our government is taking sincere steps to ensure the well-being of farmers. It is very necessary to understand that the loan waiver will never help the farmer. Instead of that, it will increase the perpetuation of vicious poverty cycle. The incessant demand of opposition is superficial, and they are raising this just to further their own political agendas. There are several reasons for death of farmers, like inclement of weather, family issues, impotency, etc. And these reasons are backed by the report of NCRB 2020. It cannot be accurately put to halt. It is very necessary to talk out a well-researched policy to counteract this. To help farmers, our government has introduced social welfare schemes like crop insurance, interest-free loans, and to develop the farmers, and we are striving to achieve the goal of double-fold increase in farmers' income by 2023. We have also collaborated with technologically advanced countries, and we have focused on technology-intensive farming. To end the problem of our food provider, today on the floor of the House, I pledge to end the poor food plight which are creating help for our food provider. सफर में धूप तो होगी, अगर साथ चल सको तो चलो, सभी है भीड़ में, तुम भी निकल सको तो चलो.
Any supplementary questions?
Madam Speaker, NPAs, which were as low as 3.4% in 2016, during previous regime have escalated to 10.8% in 2017. Now I would like the Honorable Finance Minister, how do the problems aggravate in such a great magnitude?
Honorable Minister of Finance, श्रीमती आसिन सुहाना प्लीज।
ये एनपीए की समस्या इतने बड़े पैमाने में कैसे पैदा हुई, यह जानना आवश्यक है। आदरणीय संसाद जी की तालीम विश्व के प्रसिद्ध शैक्षणिक संस्थानों से हुई होगी। कई बार उन्होंने एक कहावत सुनी होगी, देयर आर 3 टाइप्स ऑफ लाइफ, लाइफ, डैम लाइफ, स्टैटिस्टिक्स। आज वो इस तीसरे वाले के खुद शिकार हो गए। ये एनपीए की समस्या इसीलिए पैदा हुई और उन्होंने जो आंकड़े प्रस्तुत किए उसी से उनके सरकार के जमाने के क्या क्या पाप हुए होंगे और समस्या क्या है दोनों ही स्पष्ट हो जाएगा। एनपीए की समस्या, बैंक इसलिए पैसा दे रहा था कि उद्योग फैलेगा और फूलेगा और देश का लाभ होगा, तो शायद अच्छी नीयत से ही दिया होगा। पर मैडम स्पीकर, देश का लाभ तो हुआ नहीं, उद्योगपति जरूर फल फूल गए। बिना किसी सिक्योरिटी के लोन बांटे जाना, तब तो साहब नियत पर ही प्रश्न लग जाएगा। बचाती रही दीमक से घर अपना, चंद की सूखे कीड़े पूरा मुल्क खा गए। ये एनपीए की समस्या में बढ़ोतरी कैसे हुई एवं उसका असर भारतीय अर्थव्यवस्था पर कैसे पड़ा, यह जानना अति आवश्यक है कि आप एनपीए को रिस्ट्रिक्टेड करते रहिए पर उसको एनपीए घोषित मत कीजिए। इसको अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं विंडो ड्रेसिंग और इसके लिए दूसरा शब्द है यू कीप एवरग्रीनिंग द लोन्स। और देश और अपनी आंखों पे धूल झोंकते रहिए और फिर कहिए मेरे वक्त एनपीए 3.8% था और आपके वक्त एनपीए 10.6% कैसे हो गया। वे 10.6% इसीलिए हो गया क्योंकि जिसको आपने कारपेट के नीचे छुपा रखा था ना, आज वो कारपेट के ऊपर आ गया। इन अनियमितताओं को उजागर करने का काम आरबीआई ने 2014 में किया, जब आरबीआई ने कहा लेट्स हैव एन एसेट रिव्यू एंड लेट अस रिव्यू द एसेट्स ऑफ कमर्शियल बैंक्स एज वेल। और उससे पता चला कि जिन लोन्स को आप इंजीनियरिंग और विंडो ड्रेसिंग के द्वारा परफॉर्मिंग दिखा रहे थे वो वास्तव में नॉन परफॉर्मिंग थे। तब आरबीआई ने उसे एनपीए में डाला। विपक्ष ने जो सुनहरा भ्रम पाला रखा था कि 2018 के बाद जब हमारी सरकार आई तब ये समस्या उत्पन्न हुई, ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं है। यह समस्या हमें विरासत में मिली है। एनपीए का जो बढ़ता संकट है, इसे मिटाने के लिए हमारी सरकार प्रतिबद्ध है एवं आवश्यक कदम उठा रही है। बख्श देता है खुदा उनको जिनकी किस्मत खराब होती है, वो हरगिज बख्शे नहीं जाते जिनकी नीयत खराब होती है। न मेरा एक होगा न तेरा लाख होगा, न मजाक मेरी होगी न तारीफ तेरा होगा। गुरु ना कर इस शान ये शौकत की सुपर, मेरा भी हिसाब होगा तेरा भी हिसाब होगा।
No more supplementary questions, please. Question number 104, Srimati Nandini.
Madam Speaker, through you, I would like to question Honorable Minister of HRD. According to Education Research and Development Organization, there are two main problems in Indian education. The first is low adult literacy in Indian education, and second is difficulties faced by students in higher education. How does the government propose to tackle this problem?
Minister of Human Resource Development, Mr. Sai Krishna, please.
मैडम स्पीकर, पाटली विद्वान बनेंगे, सबको विद्यादान करेंगे। इसी के साथ में विपक्ष को विद्यादान करने चाहता हूँ। Madam Speaker, in India, a person aged 7 years and above who can both read and write with understanding in any languages is taken as literate. The adult literacy rate, 15 plus aged group, is the percentage of the population of 15 to 24 years old who can both read and write with understanding a short simple statement in everyday life. The adult literacy rate had took an upward trend for females as well as males. It has increased from 61% to 69.3% from the year 2011 to 2020-22. This indicator being the statement about the stock of human capital is sure to change. As per NSS for 73 round findings, adult literacy rate stands 70.5% for the year 2022.
The floor is now open for any of the supplementary questions. Mr. Susruth.
प्रणाम मैडम स्पीकर जी, जैसे कि हमारे देश शक्तित्व के तरफ बढ़ रहा है, हमारा मानना है कि विकास हर इंसान का हक होना चाहिए और शिक्षा ही विकास का साधन है। मिनिस्टर जी, इस देश में कोनो आदमी नहीं रहते हैं, महिलाएं भी रहते हैं। कठिन किया आप उनके लिए, तो एचआरडी मिनिस्टर जी, आप एडल्ट लिटरेसी रेट में जेंडर गैप के लिए क्या किया है, जरा बताओ तो।
Minister of Human Resource Development, Mr. Sai Krishna, please.
मैडम जी, कभी आपने घर से बाहर क्षेत्र में भी निकलकर शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में महिलाएं कितना आगे निकल गई है? Madam Speaker, the increase in adult literacy rate was higher among females as males, and the gender was also narrowing down. With improvement in number of schools, facilities in schools, and enrollment, the annual dropout rate at primary level had come down by 1.28% from 5.62% in 2001 and 4.34% in 2013 and 14 for all category students. At this level, the dropout rate had decreased by 5.89% to 4.53% and 1.2% from 5.34% to 4.14% respectively during this period.
Question number 105, Shriman Radhika, please.
आज के इस तकनीकी में जहां सभी देशों ने दूरसंचार एवं सूचना के क्षेत्र में आश्चर्यचकित प्रगति में हमारे तार सेवा एवं संदेशी की पारंपरिक तकनीकों से कहा आगे चलकर आधुनिक तकनीकों जैसे मोबाइल, कंप्यूटर एवं इंटरनेट इत्यादि तक काफी लंबा सफर चाहे आगे भी प्रगति होती रहेगी। फिर भी हमारे देश के काफी क्षेत्र एवं व्यक्ति इस महत्वपूर्ण सुविधा से अभी भी वंचित है। अध्यक्ष महोदय जी, मैं आपके माध्यम से माननीय मंत्री जी से पूछना चाहते हूँ कि विकसित में वंचित क्षेत्र के लिए क्या किया गया है, तक संबंधित विवरण देने की कृपा करें। आधुनिक महत्वपूर्ण तकनीकी इंटरनेट की सुविधा का लाभ कितने पहुंचान है, तक संबंधित विवरण देने की कृपा करें। आधुनिक दौर में संचार के क्षेत्र में मोबाइल सेवा के सस्ती एवं अच्छी होने के से क्षेत्र अभी भी पिछड़े हैं। इसका क्या कारण है?
दूरसंचार एवं सूचना प्रसारण मंत्री श्रीमती हसीना, प्लीज।
वर्ष के दौरान दूरसंचार एवं सूचना प्रसारण क्षेत्र में निरंतर प्रभावशाली विकास जारी रहा। टेलीफोन उपभोक्ताओं की संख्या 846.32 मिलियन से बढ़कर 951.34 मिलियन हो गई। इस प्रकार इसमें 12.41% की वृद्धि की गई। एक देश का समग्र टेलीगणत 70.89 को तुलना में बढ़कर 169.55 हो गया और आगे भी गुणोत्तर वार्षिक प्रगति की उम्मीद है। माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं दूसरों प्रश्न का जवाब। वर्ष के दौरान दूरसंचार इंटरनेट उपभोक्ताओं की संख्या लगभग 3.19 मिलियन की वार्षिक वृद्धि दर्जा करते हुए 19.67 मिलियन से बढ़कर 22.86 मिलियन हो गई। एक वर्ष का दौरान का एवं BW स्पेक्ट्रम का प्रयोग करते हुए और नेटवर्क का शुरुआत आरंभ कीजिए। माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं संसद जी को एक प्रश्न उत्तर ही मैं सहमत नहीं हूँ। माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, मैं संसद जी को भारत विश्व में दूसरों सबसे बड़ा मोबाइल एवं निर्माता बाजार है। वर्तमान में देश में 5 लाख दूर संचार टावर कुशल संप्रेषण सेवाएं दे रही है और मैं यह बता देना चाहता हूँ कि तेल प्रौद्योगिकी विकास के साथ मोबाइल फोन एक महज एक संप्रेषण का युक्ति विकसित एक स्मार्टफोन बन गया है जो असंख्य जानकारी सेवाओं का दोहन का समर्थ है, जैसे मोबाइल बैंकिंग, मोबाइल इंटरनेट, मोबाइल शिक्षा, मोबाइल स्वास्थ्य।
श्रीमान राधिका, प्लीज।
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, माननीय मंत्री बताने की कृपा करेंगे से भविष्य में दूरसंचार एवं संप्रेषण के विकास का सुधार के लिए क्या योजना है?
श्रीमती हसीना, प्लीज।
महोदय जी, दूरसंचार एवं संप्रेषण का सेवाओं का युग एक विकसित हेतु का विभिन्न नीतियां है। वर्ष के दौरान दूरसंचार एवं सेवाओं का निरंतर प्रभावशाली विकास जारी रहा और भविष्य में इन सेवाओं का और प्रभावशाली बनने के लिए कदम उठाए जा रहे हैं और निकट भविष्य में इन सेवाएं एक विकसित हेतु का दिशा में कार्य हो रहे और अतिशीघ्र पूरा कर लिया जाएगा। एक क्षेत्र में एक प्रत्येक टावर का लगाने ऊपर प्राइवेट पब्लिक पार्टनरशिप से लोगों का पार्टनरशिप के माध्यमों है।
Mr. K. Santosh.
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, आपके माध्यम से मैं मंत्री महोदय को पूछना चाहता हूँ कि एक और इंटरनेट की बढ़ती उपयोग से नहीं किया जा सकता, फिर इसके दुष्परिणाम जैसे साइबर अपराध, आत्महत्या एवं नैतिक मूल्यों का सुधार के लिए सरकार के पास क्या योजना है तो उसका क्रियावर्तन कब तक होगा?
श्रीमती हसीना प्लीज।
माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, जागरूकता क्षेत्र में टेलीविजन का विभिन्न प्रचार है और इंटरनेट का सुविधा शास्त्री है और मोबाइल फोन का एवं नेट कनेक्टर का माध्यमों को लोगों के और इनकी आकर्षित किया जा रहा है और लाभ निरंतर का लोगों को देखने को मिल रहा है।
And now question hour is over. No more supplementary questions, please.
Madam, may I?
Yes, Mr. Srilikit, please.
Madam Speaker, a serious breach of privilege has been committed by the members of opposition party. Days before, a serious and confidential issue relating to the foreign policy of India towards its neighboring countries was discussed, which later was leaked into the media and now become a chaotic debate. Honorable Speaker, Madam, before this I bid for any development projects, increment in GDP, let them get to know about the rules, regulations, norms, discipline and decorum of the parliament. And let them not make people ashamed of the whom they choose their representatives. And I have requested you to allow me to raise a question on this matter now.
Mr. Srilikit, have you given a notice of it earlier? You may give due notice along with a copy of newspaper cutting and I shall consider it. You cannot bring a surprise on me like this.
Yes, madam. I have already given a notice at 10 a.m. today.
It will be examined when it comes to me. I shall consider it and now let you know my decision. Now, papers to be laid. Honorable Minister of Health, Ms. Tamalam Soumya, please.
Madam, I beg to lay on the table a copy of annual report of Hindi-English versions of the All India Institutions of Medical Sciences, New Delhi for 2021-2022 along with the audited accounts for the following notification of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare.
Minister of Renewable Energy, Mr. Chandu Mohan Bharadwaj, please.
Honorable Speaker, Madam, a copy of papers related to the identification of industrial sector promising commercialization of solar energy, market assessment, solar water heating in Himalayan region, Delhi International Renewable Energy Conference.
Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare, Srimati Bhavani, please.
Madam, I beg to lay on the table the community under the rule of 331E, the rule of the producer, consider the demands of grains 2331, 2018 and 19, the Department of Animal Husbandry, Dairying and Fishing, the communities took the advance of representatives of a Department of Animal Husbandry, Dairying and Fishing, that day sitting held on 23rd November 2022. The report has been considered and appointed by the committee, that day sitting held on 25th April 2022 and 2023. The plan quarantine regulations, import of India, 10th Amendment Order 2022, published in the notification number S4482. Under the Gazette of 28 December 2017, under the section of Destructive Insects and Pets Act on 1914.
Secretary General to report message from the upper chamber of the Youth Parliament.
Madam, I have to report the following message received from the Secretary of the Upper Chamber of the Youth Parliament in accordance with the provisions of the Rules of Conduct and Business in the upper chamber of the Youth Parliament. I am directed to enclose a copy of the Payment of Gratuity Amendment Bill 2022, which has been passed by the Upper House at its sitting held on 22nd November 2022.
Secretary to lay on the table a copy of bill as passed by the upper chamber.
Madam, I lay on the table of the House the Payment of Gratuity Amendment Bill, which has been passed by the Upper House.
Honorable members, at this stage of proceedings, I have to make an important announcement. On my own behalf and on behalf of the honorable members of the House, I have great pleasure in extending a warm and hearty welcome to His Excellency Reed Dua, Speaker of the Algeria Parliament. And the other honorable members of the Algeria Parliament delegation who are on a visit to India as our honored guests. They are now seated in the special box. The other honorable members of the delegation are Mr. Antara Chowdhury, Deputy Speaker, Mr. Palak Goyal, Finance Minister. It is very high power delegation arrived on 25th November 2022. We wish them a happy and fruitful stay in our country. We also convey our warm and hearty greetings through them to the members of the Parliament of the Algeria and the friendly people of Algeria Parliament. Now the House will take up the next term in the list of business. Calling attention motion, Ms. Vishnu Sri Priya.
माननीय स्पीकर महोदय, आज हमारे देश में राष्ट्रवाद के मुद्दे को, देशभक्ति के मुद्दे को राजनैतिक रंग दिया जा रहा है। आज हमारे भारतवर्ष में अल्पसंख्यक वर्ग, पिछड़े वर्ग असुरक्षित महसूस कर रहे हैं। देश भर में असहनीयता बढ़ती जा रही है। इन मुद्दों पर हमारे सत्ता पक्ष के मित्रों की क्या विचार है? सरकार अपना रुख स्पष्ट करे।
Minister of Minority Affairs, Ms. Indu Sai, please.
हमारा देश भारत है, नदी गोदावरी गंगा। माननीय सभापति महोदय, आज हमारे देश में 1600 बोलियां बोलने वाले लोग, 12 धर्मों के अनुयायी और विभिन्न संप्रदायों को मानने वाले लोग निवास करते हैं। कुछ लोग ईश्वर की साकार रूप को पूजा करते हैं, तो कुछ लोग निराकार रूप का उपासना करते हैं। कुछ समुदाय लोग पौधों में परमात्मा मानते हैं, तो कुछ समुदाय लोग पौधों के अस्तित्व में ही विश्वास नहीं करते। ऐसे विविधताओं से भरा हुआ एक ही देश है हमारा भारत। हमारा संविधान, हमारी आईना, हमारी हजारों वर्षों की जो सांस्कृतिक विरासत है, उनकी अभिव्यक्ति है। माननीय सभापति महोदय, हमारी सरकार संविधान के दायरे में रहकर देश को चलाने का प्रयत्न कर रही है। सबको जोड़कर सबका विकास करने का पद्धति पर काम कर रहे हैं। हमारे जो प्रत्येक देशवासी है ना, हमारे जो दलित, पीड़ित, शोषित, वंचित भारतवासी है, उनके लिए उनका स्थान का प्रयत्न कर रही है। हम सांसद जो शपथ लेकर इस पावन सदन में आए हैं, क्या हम किसी विशेष धर्म के, किसी विशेष संप्रदाय के, किसी विशेष विचारधारा का प्रतिनिधि है? हम पूरे भारतवर्ष के प्रतिनिधि हैं और 128 करोड़ भारतवासियों का रक्षा के लिए खड़े हैं। और हम सांसदों का क्या धर्म होना चाहिए? क्या हिंदू होना चाहिए? क्या मुसलमान होना चाहिए? क्या सिख होना चाहिए या ईसाई होना चाहिए? और इसके साथ एक और प्रश्न उठता है कि आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया क्या है? आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया सर्वधर्म संभाव, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिन, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, वसुधैव कुटुम्बकम्। माननीय सभापति महोदय, यह बुद्ध और गांधी का पावन कर्मभूमि है। यहाँ अहिंसा परमो धर्म का मंत्र दिया गया है। यहाँ तक कि स्वामी विवेकानंद जी ने भी कहा है, भारत देश का आदर्श है वेदांतिक ब्रेन कपल्ड विद इस्लामिक बॉडी, विविधता में एकता, यही तो हमारी पहचान है। कभी इकबाल ने भी कहा है, हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारा, सदियों रहा है दुश्मन धौर्य जहां हमारा, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा। पर, जाति के नाम पर, संप्रदाय के नाम पर लोगों का बांटने का काम किया जा रहा है और वे आज से नहीं चला रहा है, लंबे अरसे से चला रहा है। जातिवाद का जहर संप्रदायवाद का जहर घुलता चला रहा है और इसी बीच कुछ असामाजिक तत्व ने धर्म का चुनरी ओढ़कर विचारधारा की आड़ में समाज में कुछ अशांति फैलाने का काम कर रहे हैं। वह जो ध्रुवीकरण की राजनीति की जा रही है, जो लोग अपना राजनीतिक रोटियां सेंकते हैं, ये शर्मनाक है। माननीय सभापति महोदय, देश को संविधान के दायरे में रह करके चलना होगा। किसी को भी कानून हाथ में लेने का अधिकार नहीं है, किसके साथ भेदभाव करने का भी कोई अधिकार नहीं है। कानून कठोरता से काम करता है और इन घटनाओं से अधिक सख्ती बरतेगा। हमने विभिन्न राज्य सरकारों को ऐसे अवांछनीय घटनाओं के उन्मूलन के लिए डॉसियर तैयार करने का निर्देश दिया है। पिछले कुछ दिनों से इस मुद्दों को एक विशेष रंग दिया जा रहा है, एक विशेष समुदाय को ही निशाना किया जा रहा है। यह जो रंगीकरण टारगेटिज्म है ना, ये सरासर गलत है। देश की एकता, अखंडता, अक्षुण्णता से कोई समझौता नहीं किया जा सकता। यह देश आतंकवाद मुद्दे पर, अलगवाद मुद्दे पर, नक्सलवाद मुद्दे पर संगठित है और होना चाहिए। और मैं हम सांसदों से एक पूछना चाहती हूँ, क्या हमारे आर्मी का वो जवान जो भीषण गर्मी में, कड़ाके के ठंडे में दिन रात देश की रक्षा के लिए खड़े हैं, ये क्या किसी धर्म के लिए खड़े हैं, किसी संप्रदाय के लिए खड़े हैं? वे 128 करोड़ भारतवासियों का रक्षा के लिए खड़े हैं। जो लोग अपना मन समर्पित, तन समर्पित, देह का कण कण समर्पित, चाहता हूँ देश की प्रति तुझे कुछ और भी दूं के विचार से ओतप्रोत है। और हमारी सरकार का क्या धर्म होना चाहिए? क्या हिंदू होना चाहिए? क्या मुसलमान होना चाहिए? क्या सिख होना चाहिए या ईसाई होना चाहिए? हम सांसदों का और हमारी सरकार का एक ही धर्म है, इंडिया। हमारी एक ही धर्म ग्रंथ है, भारत देश का संविधान। हमारी एक ही पूजा है, भारत भक्ति। हमारी एक ही कार्यशैली है, सर्वांगीण विकास और दरिद्र नारायण का उत्थान। और इसके लिए हम कटिबद्ध है, प्रतिबद्ध है। अंत में मैं माननीय सांसदों से पूरे देश से ये पूछना चाहती हूँ, क्या हिंदुओं को मुस्लिम भाइयों के साथ लड़ना है या मुस्लिम भाई हिंदुओं के साथ लड़ना है? क्या अग्रवर्ण लोग दलित वर्ण लोग के साथ लड़ना है? क्या दलित भाइयों अग्रवर्ण के साथ लड़ना है? मैं आह्वान करती हूँ, आइए हिंदू मुसलमान एक होकर के, दलित अग्रवर्ण लोग एक होकर के गरीबी के खिलाफ लड़ेंगे, बेरोजगारी के खिलाफ लड़ेंगे, संप्रदायवाद के खिलाफ लड़ेंगे और स्वतंत्रता सेनानी बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर जो सपना देखा था ना, इसके लिए अपना कदम बढ़ाइए और एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत के दिशा में अपना कर्तव्य करें। धन्यवाद।
Honorable Minister of Law, Ms. Jahnavi, to introduce the bill.
Madam, I beg to move for leave to introduce a bill, the Code on Social Security Bill 2022.
The question is that leave be granted to introduce a bill, the Code on Social Security Bill 2022. Those who are in favor will please say yes. Yes. Those who are against will please say no. No. I think the yes have it, the yes have it, the yes have it. Leave is granted.
Madam, I introduce the bill.
The bill will be considered in the next session of the Parliament. Now the House will take up consideration of Police Force Bill 2022. Ms. Neha Priya.
Honorable Speaker, Madam, I beg to move the Police Force Bill 2022, an act to consider it and amend the law relating to the establishment, regulation, powers and duties of the police service and for the matters connected therewith. Madam, the very foundation of our nation is based on the rule of law. Of all the three organs of the governance lies held to be supreme and most powerful, be it the executive, legislature or judiciary. No one is held above the law laid by the constitution of our country. While the judiciary acts as the watchdog of rule of law, it is the police force which is the guardian of law and order in the society. The police force acts as a protector of law on the field, and the legislature may pass bills into laws, and the court may issue orders, and the executive heads may come up with policy documents and directions. But madam, the men in uniform are the spirit of this letter. Without the police, nothing can withstand with the chaos of diversified nation with a unique blend of culture, language, religion and tradition like of ours. It is the constitutional obligation of the state to provide an impartial and efficient police service and empower it in such a manner so that it functions as an efficient, effective, people-friendly and responsive agency. Since the independence, our police force has largely remained based on traditional methods of crime prevention and detection. While as our country has entered into an era of digital age, effective cyber policing is still a distant dream for India. With changing times, new challenges have emerged in the forefront. India is now no longer a legacy companies. Individuals and researchers fly across this subcontinent. Our police force needs to equip itself with dual role of providing due consideration to basic human rights and to prioritize the nation as well. Terrorism, illegal drugs, human trafficking, human rights violation are such crimes which span jurisdiction of national and international boundaries. These are the challenges which require more holistic approach from the police as first responders to any such eventuality. Madam, in order to cope up with the challenges that 21st century presents, there is an emergent need to reorganize the police service, and our government thinks to reorganize the police stations itself. Our government has brought forward this bill before this November House because we think this is the most appropriate time that police force is vested with specialized powers and these challenges can be dealt with an iron hand.
Madam, can I? Yes, Miss Pranti, please. Honorable Home Minister, can we know the objective of this bill?
Madam, the main objective of this bill is to codify and amend the law relating to the establishment, regulation, powers and duties of the police service in our country. Some of the important features of this bill which I present include the following. In addition to the existing duties and functions, this bill mandates the social responsibility of the police, that is, providing all requisite assistance to a victim in a crime or to the persons found in hopeless conditions is mandatory provision. The police officer is also required to make necessary arrangements to provide free legal aid for the deserving persons. The police officer is also required to maintain proper standards of health and physics. The police officer is also required to make and keep audio or video recordings of every activity performed by them during their investigation. Madam, the Act prohibits the use of indecent language or misbehavior by the police personnel during the investigation. It is for the first time that the government machinery is under camera surveillance for 24 hours and 7 days all throughout the year. We think this step will foster an era of effective cyber policing, which is still a distant dream for India. Madam, as I mentioned earlier, there is an immediate need to modernize the police stations, and our government thinks to modernize the police stations itself. This bill prohibits that every police station in the country be equipped with adequate manpower and infrastructure facilities like healthcare, shelter, food, etc. Also, proper arrangements for lockup shall be upgraded to minimum humane conditions. In addition to the above conditions, these all facilities shall be verified by the chairperson and the Human Rights Commission. The most striking feature of this bill is the constitution of all India police shall examine the malpractices and misconduct of the police service. As citizens, we are very well aware about the ground realities in our country. The long list and record of pending cases in our country may discourage a common man to file any complaint against a cop. Then there is a fear of harassment. As the famous saying goes, "Pani mein rehkar, magar mat se bhai nahi." But when the protector becomes the invader, there is no other option but to dispose such complaints. The All India Police Complaints Authority mandates that a person can have fast disposal to the complaint after logging against a cop. Once a complaint is logged against a cop, he or she shall be stripped off from all the powers with a show cause notice. Madam, it is not the judge sitting in the courtroom, not the bureaucrat, not the legislature. It is the ordinary constable wearing a khaki cloth, swinging a bamboo stick, who represent all his organs as one-man army. That would be all. Thank you, ma'am, and respected members.
I am confident that all the honorable members of this house, irrespective of party affiliation, believe in the fact that the police force of our country is in a dire need to be reformed, and therefore we welcome the bill wholeheartedly, and through it will help to raise the standards of our police force akin to that of developed nations. With these words, I now move that the Police Force Bill 2022 be taken into consideration. Motion moved that the bill relating to the establishment, regulation, powers and duties of police service and for matters connected therewith be taken into consideration. Shriman Kalatoti Bhavya, what are your remarks on this bill?
Honorable Speaker, Madam, I rise to support this bill as I believe it is a revolution in making, and thus I feel proud to associate myself with the passing of such a reformative act. It has been a long pending issue for our nation since we achieved independence that police forces should be patronized on modern trends and should make more people friendly. While going through this bill, I personally feel that government has attained a very basic objective of reformation on modern lines. The sections pertaining to social responsibility and community policies are very much similar to that of developed nations, where police itself discharges the functions of the social welfare department. The provisions dealing with police, public cooperative are indeed a welcome step as civil society has been yearning for it since decades. The Honorable Law Minister has elaborated upon all the main provisions of this bill, but some of the provisions which I believe are detrimental to passing of this bill are the provisions laid down in section 136, which for the first time imposed severe penalty on a police officer who commits an unreasonable arrest, search and violence. It is more akin to provide the tools in the hands of a common man to protect himself from high-handedness of the police. Similarly, the bill has also laid down certain guidelines for the protection of public property and moral order while discharging the functions of a police, which is a much needed reform in modern times. Another important provision is that of separating the investigative crime and maintenance of public order function with the department. Having a separate wing to investigate crime and separate wing to maintain decorum in a public function will help the police force to provide the services in a quick and efficient manner. The historical provisions of this bill are indeed a great towards fostering in our society, and I believe the other members of this house will also support the passing of this bill, which will help the police force to regain its lost glory.
Ms. Pooja Reddy, please enlighten the house with your views.
Honorable Speaker, Madam, police is one of the vital organs of the executive which holds a pivotal role in the maintaining of law and order in the society. And for that matter, there should be no partiality in the functioning of police staff. The legislation that this government has come up in connection with large police reforms is monstrous, inadequate, toothless and has a larger scope of mismanagement. Some of the provisions are in fact contrary to the Constitution of India. Honorable Speaker, it seems that this bill has more in it for the government than for the common people. It gives government power to interfere in the police proceedings in an unconstitutional way. It is a marquee of our democracy that the government has no knowledge of our constitution. Coming up with such a vague legislation is just unacceptable. This legislation is fraud on the constitution itself. This bill hides more than it reveals. Opposition vehemently opposes this bill and demands amendment to some provisions so as synchronize this bill with the Constitution of India and public interest. Until our demands for amendment are not met, we won't let this bill to be passed. Government, by controlling police, wants to form an autocratic setup which will serve their own personal benefits. Section 10, which says police officer to keep the information confidential, is against the ideology of democracy. Police, being a part of government, cannot be able to work in secrecy. All the materials, evidences, statements, information are collected in course of any official duty, immediately becomes a public document and it is to be placed in public domain. Are we supposed to understand the government has given free hand to police to use force? We ask government to explain this phrase. Really have they given free hand to police against the accused in the police lockups? The most dangerous preposterous section of this bill is section 62, which lays down the procedure to form Village Defense Committee for the protection of inhabitants of STA in particular village. Haha, it's a shame that police itself can't protect the interest of the masses. If people themselves are to protect their interest, then what is the need of police? Then we don't need government as well as people will govern themselves. Under the social contract of democracy, people surrender some rights to government and it is the duty of government to protect those rights like social security and protection. If we are to protect ourselves on our own, then what's the fun of elected government? And moreover, the procedure to elect the members of VDC is not led in the bill, which gives room for discretion. Section 53 to 56 again gives wide powers to high-ranking officials in the case of postings and promotions. With these internal system of working gives rise to the rampant corruption in the system with no proper procedure is laid, which makes it all the way more vague and controversial in nature. Section 120, which bars the complaint after 6 months, is again controversial. It is against the fundamental rights and there is no scope for irreversible delay in the complaint. Section 101, which lays down the member of SPCA, is again a fraud on the people of the state. Only one person, the chairman, is from the judiciary. Rest all members are appointed by the government, which gives complete control to the government. It gives government power to influence the proceedings of the committee. It is the neutrality of the committee. The main glitches in this part of the bill are Section 102 and 105. 102 says the chairperson is to be appointed by the government with consultation of CI. But Section 105 gives government a power to remove the chairperson unilaterally. This again gives government a power to control the committee. Section 107 lays the provisions say on whose complete action may be taken against the officer, a victim, NHRC, DC police. It's strange to see that no mention of judiciary in this session to avoid any confusion. The judges should also be included to maintain the effectiveness. Chapter 10 deals with the complaints against the PO. The part is authoritative in nature. Government has kept all powers to itself and thus due to the neutrality and partiality of SPCA. Section 107 maintains the procedure of interdepartment inquiry, which prevents the system of check and balance in the absence of any independent authority. To check the neutrality and partiality makes this whole chapter ineffective. We propose the idea of a panel of 2 sitting the judges to look into the functioning of the SPCA, DPCA. Opposition reveals this bill and demands amendment. Opposition rejects any step or idea to make police puppets in the hands of government. These bills, Speaker Madam, will affect the image of police in the hand of masses and create respect among the general public. Until these amendments are not made, there is no question of allowing this bill to pass. Let me be clear, police is there for the help of public, not for the government personal use. This bill is passed in such manner as to keep police under the clutches of government. We won't let that happen. We'll fight against any attempt this government to dilute the structure of the police.
श्रीमान लोकेश्वरी, आप काफी चाहते हैं इस बिल का पार्टी।
आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, प्रणाम। आज हम आपके समक्ष खड़े होकर स्वयं को बड़ी दुविधाजनक स्थिति में महसूस कर रहे हैं, परंतु इसका कारण सामान्य रूप से मिल रही है। किंतु मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हम आज अपने देश का सुरक्षा कर्मी के संसद में टिप्पणी पे टिप्पणी किए जा रहे हैं। ओपी निंदा जनक जिसका पूरा श्रेय इस आराम ने दाई खुशी में बीती निकलम सरकार को जाता है। उन्हें कहा मालूम अध्यक्ष महोदय कि मेरा सुरक्षा कर्म 45 की जलसा देने वाले घर में और के कारण मैं इनको देखकर अपना कर्तव्य पूरा कर रहे हैं और हमारा प्रधान मेरा रक्षक गृह मंत्री दिल्ली के ऐसे कुश्रियों विराजमान है। अध्यक्ष महोदय, हमारा सुरक्षा कर्मियों के वेतन ने एक मजदूर के वेतन से है। इनको वेतन के उपदेश पिछले 15 सालों से संसद में पड़ा है और पास किए जाने के लिए तरस रहा है। उस उपदेश को लेकर सरकार के तरफ सहायता हो रही है और लेकर आए हैं पुलिस रिफॉर्म बिल।
Madam Speaker, may I please?
Ms. Deepika, please follow decorum of the parliament. Please be seated.
Sorry, madam.
श्रीमान लोकेश्वरी, to continue.
ओके मैडम स्पीकर। अध्यक्ष महोदय, यह बात निंदाजनक है। अंग्रेजी जाने के बाद पहली बार सरकार पुलिस बल में तब दिल्ली लाने के लिए कोई कदम उठा रहे हैं, लेकिन इस बात में भी कोई शंका नहीं किया यदि इस बिल को पास किया, गायन तो जानता वाली हत्यारों को लेकर कोई प्रबंध नहीं है, इससे सर्वजन के जीवन पे क्या प्रभाव पड़ सकता है उसको कोई अनुमान नहीं है। इस अद्भुत सरकार को पिछली बार कुछ थाने से 25 AK-47 राइफल लापता गई, जमीन का कार्य आसमान में निकल गई। अध्यक्ष महोदय, हद देखिए उस उपदेश का इस बात प्रबंध भी है कि कदाचित आपके विरुद्ध प्रदर्शन करना है तो आपको केवल पुलिस बल से अनुमति लेनी पड़ेगी। और इस अनपढ़ सरकार में ये नहीं मालूम है विरुद्ध प्रदर्शन करना हमारा संविधान हक है, जैसे हमें वंचित किया जा सकता। अरे और इस बिल अंतर्गत कोई व्यक्ति की गिनती से भी तोड़ देता तो 1000 रुपया जुर्माना होगा। इस अनपढ़ विक्रम सरकार ने संविधान की संस्थापकों का प्राणों की पीड़ा पहुंचा है। हमें संसद में पहले ही इस सेक्टर में इस सरकार को जो ही देश उपलक्ष्य खड़ा करना है बिल्कुल वैसा ही आ रहा है। इस बिल का द्वारा धन्यवाद।
Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, Ms. Neha Priya.
Madam, it is indeed a learning experience to me to listen to the vibrant inputs of the members of this house, both the supporters and critics equally. The first issue that I will clarify is the pay rise of police. Madam, the honorable opposition member is forgetting about the 2 pay commissions which stand implemented as of today. The employees have been provided a multi-folded raise of basic pay with other immunities like DA, TA and HRA. It is humbly submitted to the opposition, kindly ma'am, don't give us lectures regarding the violation of our constitution. It was your government who was snubbed by the Supreme Court for passing such acts. In her address to this gathering, Sri Pooja Reddy also has criticized many provisions of this bill. Is the respected opposition member forgetting the fact that judiciary is already overburdened with 4 crore cases still pending? These provisions are included to provide some relief to common man, and if the opposition thinks that our visions are wrong, they are grossly mistaken. I humbly request the House to consider the fact that since independence, a lot of things have changed in the administration and governmental processes. We have achieved the status of a developing nation and are set to become a developed one in the coming decades. It is a humble request to everyone present in this house to strengthen the police force of our country by assigning his or her assent to this bill. I request the house to pass this bill.
The question is that the bill to consider and amend the law relating to the establishment, regulation, powers and duties of police service and for matters connected therewith be taken into consideration. Those who are in favor will please say yes. Yes. Those who are against is please say no. I think the yes have it. The yes have it. The yes have it. Motion moved. Now the question is that section 101 and 107 stand part of the bill. Those who are in favor will please say yes. Yes. Those who are against is please say no. I think the yes have it, the yes have it, the yes have it. Sections 101 and 107 stand part of the bill. Now the question is that chapter 1, the enacting formula and the title stand part of the bill. Those who are in favor will please say yes. Yes. Those who are against is please say no. I think the yes have it, the yes have it, the yes have it. The motion is adopted. Honorable Minister for Home Affairs, please.
Madam, I move the bill be passed.
Motion moved that the bill is passed. Those who are in favor, will please say yes. Yes. Those who are against, is please say no. I think the yes have it, the yes have it, the yes have it. The motion is adopted.
will take up private member resolution. Ms. Jahnavi, move to the resolution.
Madam Speaker, I move the following resolution. The House recommends that the government should take steps to review the decisions to invite foreign universities into the country, make necessary arrangements to provide better facilities for scholars. Madam, education is the manifestation of human behavior, which is already within, said Swami Vivekananda. India, the abroad of the world, famous universities like Nalanda and Takshashila are having a great scholars from all over the world who came and studied. Now, the plight is that foreign universities are playing a dominant role in the Indian education system. It is being said that these universities would provide best scientific and technological education to the people, which reduces the financial burden on the country and saves a crores of dollars being spent by the students for their education in abroad. But madam, in India, there are also many such organizations like IIT, IBM, CCMB, IISR, IIM, which are no way less than these institutions, so-called best institutions. When these institutions are facing a shortage of funds, how can our government provide the better facilities like land, infrastructure and other facilities which are coming from abroad? What we feel is that native universities would promote educational standards in the country if the same money is spent on them.
Mr. Arshit, please.
Madam Speaker, here I would like to add something related to this foreign universities' performance in other countries like Singapore, China, Israel, where their experiments has already failed. Here is the report on their performance, madam. Not only that, madam, the best faculty working for the native universities may find a better opportunity and pay in these universities, and that would further damage the reputation of these organizations, which are already affected by too many native problems, madam. This is absolutely against the Swadeshi call of Mahatma. Is it not?
Ms. Vasundhara.
Madam Speaker, I congratulate my honorable colleagues for bringing a good topic into the House for discussion. I rise to support the resolution passed by my friends. Such a decision to invite foreign universities into India would only prove once again the great faith of Indians in the English system of education. In the great urge for improving standards, the government is keeping creativity aside. Madam, educational standards can be improved with the inalienable support to the creative ideas of the intellectuals. Creativity always flourishes with the trust in the intelligentsia, but not by discouraging them. Creativity always This would further worsen the situation. The government should know that India has made tremendous progress in various fields. By itself, study says that minimum 6% of GDP need to be allocated to the education in the country, and out of that, 4% is being spent for higher education, and whereas only 3.5% of GDP is being allocated for education, and just a minimum 0.4% is spent for higher education. How can the government expect best results from such a major allocations? That is why, madam, let us clean our house and provide all the facilities in it than trying to praise the neighbor.
Ms. Dharani, please.
Madam Speaker, here is another point to be viewed seriously. It is heard that new institution is also going to be established called National Council for Higher Education System and Research, which would be work in place of national institutions like UGC, ALGC. Further, it is also going to control the working of institutions of higher learning in the country. If this is all true, what would be the fate of Indian education system? Won't the financially backward students deprived the opportunity to seek the higher education for want of money? Will they not be crushed under the heavy amount of fee remittancy? I would like the minister to clarify the matter to us.
Ms. Tejasvi.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate the thorough survey made by my honorable colleagues, and I assure to the House that every fear will be coming to the consideration while taking any decision. I also issue to the House through you, Madam, that every eligible student will be provided with an opportunity to seek higher education irrespective of their financial status. The proposed universities will be working under the guideline of the ministry. Madam Speaker, this proposal is not new. In 2005, the proposal came from the Council for in the Trade of WTO. The National Knowledge Commission and Committee under Dr. Yashpal supported this. it has suggested some of the rules like this. If any such organization which is interested in establishing a university, it must apply to the UGC. It should have 20 years of the experience in field of education. It should possess all the financial and allied sources needed. It should deposit 50 crores of the corpus fund. Not only this, madam, there is a strict framework under which these universities should be working. And before finalizing the decision, suggestions from my honorable colleagues also will be coming to the consideration. In view of the steps taken by the government, I request my honorable member to please withdraw the resolution. Thank you, madam.
Ms. Jahnavi.
Madam Speaker, I am grateful to the members who have rendered their support to my resolution. I am also grateful for the ministers for lending patient hearing to our fears. Thank you, madam, for giving us the opportunity. Now, as the minister, madam, has given the assurance, I would like to withdraw my resolution.
Motion moved that the resolution is withdrawn. Those who are in favor will please say yes. Yes. Those against may please say no. I think the yes have it. The yes have it. The yes have it. The resolution by leave of the House is withdrawn. Now the House is adjourned. 11 a.m. tomorrow.